Hey everybody, Jasper Krugel here. Sorry I was muted. I'm going to start over. So thank you for coming to our webinar about the Sueur Community Center and outdoor pool. There seems to be a lot of questions about the community center and outdoor pool now that we have the ability to open it up for the state of Minnesota. So we thought it would be a good idea to just kind of get some information out there to the public about what we can and can't do. Why City Council has decided to just kind of pause or do a hard pause until some potential stimulus dollars are available, and just answer some general questions that I've heard, and then open it up for some questions from the public. So with that, I'll just kind of get started. I'll do a just short introduction. Let's see. Yep. So I have an agenda, just a little introduction. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the community center history, talk about what the business model is currently of the community center, talk about revenue sources and service area breakdowns, talk about what was adopted at the beginning of 2020 and what we have for a budget for the community center now that we were forced to be closed for about 12 weeks now. A little legislative update, which is currently ongoing, and then I'll talk about some questions I've gotten, and then also open it up for questions that maybe come from this group. So I'll get going. So just a little bit of history about the community center. I'm sure everybody is aware of it. The pool was built in the 1940s, and it went through a major renovation in 1999. The community center was built in 1976. City started funding the community center in the 1980s. The facility has expanded operations over the years. Different things have been added. And then tax contributions have been the primary revenue source for the past 10 years. One of the things that I've noticed since I've talked to a lot of people in the last week about this is just, I don't think there's a good understanding of the revenue sources. So I'm going to spend some time on that and just describe what the revenue sources are today and what they've been in the past. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the current business model. The funds that consist, you'll hear me probably reference the 615 fund. And what that means is in our financial software, we have a fund numbered 615. And it consists of the fitness center, the general facility, so the community center itself, the building, the gym and racquetball court, the ice arena, indoor pool, outdoor pool, and recreation programming. One of the things that I've noticed through my conversations is that a lot of people don't realize that the outdoor pool is actually under the umbrella of the community center. So a lot of questions I've gotten stemmed from, why can't we open up the outdoor pool? It's this much to open per month, and you budgeted for it. But really, when we're looking at this as a whole, everything, all of those service areas are under the same umbrella, the 615 fund. Revenue sources, so about 60%, and this is the rolling average for the last about 10, 11 years, 60% of the funding comes from the tax levy, and 40% comes from fees for services, so memberships and rentals and I guess concessions, sales, things like that are in there. So I'm going to show some examples because we're going to be talking about, the reason why City Council decided to just kind of postpone potential openings. So I'm going to be looking at the 2020 budget for the community center and what was adopted back in December of 2019. So the 2020 budget for the community center has two basic revenue sources. Revenues collected through those memberships, rentals, sales, things like that, any fees that we collected, and then also the tax levy. So in 2020, the budget that was adopted, and this is excluding the community education pass-through. So a little about that is we partner with the school district and run their community education programming through our software. So on our books, we actually have to have the revenues related to the community education programs. And then we also have expenditures, but it's a straight pass through. So when you remove that, you're looking at the 2020 adopted budget was $939,793. And of that, we projected at that time that $433,750 would be coming from that revenue collected, and the property tax contribution or the levy would be $506,043. So that's essentially the two revenue sources. The revenue collected is broken up into a bunch of different things, but mostly it's memberships, it's ICE rentals. Those are the top two. And then it's those, we get some miscellaneous revenue through rentals and things of that nature. I'll just let you know if you're taking notes, there's going to be questions at the end. You'll have the ability to ask some questions and I can attempt to answer them. But one thing I found is that this concept that you see in front of you right now isn't readily known by people in the community, that the tax levy, property taxes, go to that community center. A lot of people think it's self-sufficient through memberships and fees, but it isn't, and it hasn't been the case for over a decade at least. So just to be clear about that, so everybody kind of knows what's going on financially with our revenues. Looking at the different service areas, this graphic that you'll see here is just broken up by the different service areas. So the 7 different areas: fitness center, general facility, gym, racquetball, ice arena, indoor pool, outdoor pool, and rec programming. And it kind of looks like, well, where do the revenues, or how are those funded? The blue areas are the fees, and the orange is the tax contribution. So you can look at different areas. The ice arena, I'll talk about that a little bit. There's a lot of fees. It's supported by the major groups that use it, and you can see that in the revenues that we see, the revenue sources here. If you look at the indoor pool, it's a little bit more funded through the levy than through fees. So there's a balance there. It isn't a straight line across all the different service areas. So this is an interesting graph. The Personnel and Budget Committee is really diving into this information, and along with the Recreation and Park Advisory Committee, this is pretty new data. We haven't been able to do this since this year. So in the past, we really just looked at the complete facility as operations wise for revenues, and now we're really looking at the individual service areas. So this does provide a lot more information, and everybody that's been involved with the Personnel and Budget Committee, I think they really like this. It's just more data to help us analyze what's going on. Looking at the expenditures, now this is how we spend the money at the community center. So you look at this, you have a large portion to personnel. We have supplies, utilities, and repairs and maintenance, and we've grouped them in that manner just because that's the way that our financial software is set up. So when you're looking at our budget or our audit, and more so our budget document that we adopt, you can see the 100s are personnel, the 200s are supplies, the 300s are utilities, and the 400s are those repairs and maintenance. So those are the ways we look at it. You can see it's a pretty large component related to personnel. Looking at the expenditures per service area, you can see that they're broken down a little bit differently too. So you can look at something like the indoor pool. It's less than half of the expenditures are related to personnel, whereas rec programming, that's most of it. So you can see it varies quite a bit based on the service area, but again, more data that the Personnel and Budget and the City Council have at their for their ability to digest when they're making decisions. Again, I'll let you know if you do have interest in this PowerPoint, just send me an email and I can email that to you, or you can swing by City Hall and pick it up if you'd like. There's a lot of new information and I'm going through it kind of quick, and we can kind of go back if there are specific questions about things. So moving on, I'm going to talk about the 2020 budget that was adopted. So now I'm kind of getting into this realm of why we're talking about keeping the facility closed until we get some outside funding. The council direction that happened on May 26th. And really, I'm kind of separating the two items. I know that one item spurs conversation or questions about another, but I'm really talking about the 2020 year, the budget that we adopted, the impact of COVID-19 on that budget. And then the other separate piece is the 2021 budget. So moving forward, what are we going to do? A lot of this information might be new to people that are looking at it, but this is important that you communicate with the city council, with staff, with the personnel and budget, RPAC, any of the people that are involved in city government and some of those recommendations and decision making. Let them know how you feel about, if this is new to you, about how we're spending our tax dollars on the community center. So I'll talk about the 2020 community center adopted budget. Looking at this, you can see you've seen these graphs before as far as the revenue collected and the levy amounts. Again, that budget was $939,793. So you can see how that's broken down as far as revenue sources go and expenditure areas. Moving on, talking about personnel. So this was a question that I see come up quite a bit. So talking about what our personnel budget is, which in 2020, the adopted budget was just over $503,000. Looking at it, I don't think a lot of people realize that we have about 18,340 hours scheduled of personnel time. So that equates to about 8.82 full-time equivalent employees, if you look at it at that 2,080 hours per year. So our full-time employees are 3 full-time employees. I think everybody knows that. We have lifeguards that are just over 7,000 hours. We have part-time ice maintenance, which is 840 hours. Facility maintenance, which is 570. Program instructors, which is 850 hours. And then the part-time office staff at 2,800 hours. So we have 3 full-time individuals that work full-time that are in the office 5 days a week, and then we have 56 other employees that work at the community center normally. So it's a large group, and we have a lot of lifeguards, we have a lot of office staff. So there's quite a bit of management involved with having a crew that large. Looking at the adopted budget, or this is actually how those hours are broken down, kind of on a bar graph. So you can kind of look and see proportionally, what portion are full-time employees, what are lifeguards, ice maintenance, facility maintenance, program instructors, part-time office staff, things like that. So you can kind of see how all of those 18,340 hours are broken out as far as personnel type. Obviously, our full-time staff, their hourly wages are higher. They receive benefits, so they're a larger portion of the full budget, the 503,000. But there are a lot of hours that are worked at the facility. I know some individuals I've talked to have expressed interest in possibly volunteering. If that is the case, definitely reach out. I can look at what your schedule looks like and what experience you may have in the industry, and we'd be more than happy if there's a group or a person that would like to volunteer at the community center. That would help out with some of these things. So I'll just throw that out there right now. Looking now at the community center projected budget under pandemic conditions. So this is some of the data that was digested by City Council, Personnel and Budget. Our first Personnel and Budget meeting that we had related to the impact on the community center was May 4th here at City Hall. And we've had one on May 18th, and then we've had one every week since then. So we're meeting regularly. They're noticed meetings. They're open to the public. We don't really have many people from the public. We've started getting a few more, but they are recorded and they are posted on the website. So take a look, engage, and you'll hear me say this numerous times. If you aren't really, either you're a fan or you're not a fan of the current business model of the community center and outdoor pool, engage during the personnel and budget. If you can't make the meeting, talk to your representatives, your council members. Let them know how you feel, because they truly are the decision makers. They represent the public, and let them know what's going on. So talking about pandemic conditions. So you'll see this graph up on top. This is the one that was adopted as far as revenues go, that City Council adopted back in December. The bottom graph shows where that gap in revenue is based on COVID-19 and the forced closure. So looking at that, you can see, and there's some assumptions that are being made here. So we've collected data for the last 2.5 months. What we've indicated is that there's been a just under $69,000 reduction in what normal operational expenditures would be. So that's taken into account in this model. And then we're also assuming a 15% increase in operational costs for the last, from July on, so the last 6 months of the year, due to the opening criteria set by the state of Minnesota to open during COVID-19. So I'll get into that a little bit more as far as experiences, if we were to open the outdoor pool or were to open the fitness center, what those experiences would be, because they would be nothing like what pre-pandemic conditions were. So right now, plugging in those assumptions, the annual budget projection right now is just over $1 million. So $1,080,000, $80,761.95. So that's what we're projecting right now. So, and based on the revenues that we've collected so far, so basically 2.5 months of revenues, we've collected $58,000 in revenues. So with the projection, what we're indicating is that we're going to have a revenue shortage of $356,000, and that number is for all service areas. So if you go back to the meeting that we had on the 26th of May, there were, I think, 7 scenarios that we looked at. None of the scenarios looked at opening the full facility, because that number, this 356,000, is a big number, and to get there would be almost impossible, or it would be impossible to not to do that without doing something with personnel or other service areas. So what we looked at that May 26th meeting was looking at some sort of opening that we would just have the fitness center open, or just the outdoor pool, or we talked a little bit about the outdoor pool, but really we were just looking at the fitness center alone. So that's where that number of $250 or $262,000 came. And we've collected more data since then, so those numbers are shifting a little bit. We don't know, we don't know or didn't know how much it costs to just maintain that facility in a closed state. So, we still have to maintain the building. It still has to be heated somewhat, cooled somewhat, but we don't have any water in the outdoor or indoor pool or outdoor pool right now. We didn't know. We're collecting this data in real time. So, in May, we were looking at just the April data. Well, now in June, we're looking at the April and March, or March, April, and May data. So we're getting better. We were gathering data. We know what it takes to actually just keep the facility running. And when we're plugging those in those numbers, we were pretty close on estimating it, but they fluctuate from month to month. One month you might have it cost you $65,000. The next month, because we pay workers' comp insurance or some of these one-time payments for the facility, it might go up to $85,000. So on average, that $72,000 per month is pretty accurate. And just so everybody's clear, that includes the full-time staff. That includes the bond payment that we have on the facility that we still have to pay. So that's why that number is pretty big, because there's some other numbers in there, and that's why the proposal or the recommendation from City Council has the furloughing of a couple, like 2.6 FTE employees, related to that, and that's really what we would have as far as savings go. So I'll talk a little bit about this. We had, that almost little under $69,000 in expenditure reduction, March 16th to June 1st. We're assuming a 15% increase in expenditures if we open due to some of those criteria by the state of Minnesota. So our expenditures are that $1.08 million for the year, which adds $140,000, $141,000 to the budget. So we're maneuvering, and we're working with this in real time. We don't exactly know what it's going to cost to just operate the facility in the summer, because we've never done it, right? The facility's always been open. So that's really why we're talking about today, because if we would open up portion of that red area that you see would likely be a deficit rolling into 2021. We would have to come up with a plan to look at paying that back somehow in 2021 or the years in the future. And that's what City Council is really looking at, is what's that tax impact of opening up the facility potentially into the future. Now, there will be conversations about, well, the business model's flawed. That's great information to share with your council members. If you feel that our tax contribution's too high, or our revenues through fees are too low, it definitely let them know. But we're working with what was adopted and what the status quo has been for decades. So that's basically why we're here, and not we don't have the outdoor pool or the fitness facility open, is because there's a projection that if we do open those, we're going to have a deficit at the end of the year, which we'll have to repay at some point in time. So there are some revenue variables. There have been some members of the community that have indicated that they have been willing to pay their membership while the facility is closed, and that's great. I can't express the gratitude for that. I will mention that when we did close the facility on the 16th of March, we did receive a lot of phone calls requesting refunds, stating they didn't want to get charged moving forward if they were month to month. So internally, we determined that there's a lot of people that can't afford this. This is impacting a lot of families financially, and we don't think it's a priority to burden them. But if you do want to pay for your membership while the facility is closed to help us out, you can donate to the city of LeSueur. We're not advocating for that. That would be a personal choice, but you can do that, and that money would go towards the revenues, and it would help out. It honestly would help out. So I'm working with some service organizations within the community that may have some funds available. There's Uniman has a program for COVID-19 that staff has been working with an individual there. So we're working on some other donations and things like that with outside groups and service organizations to kind of fill that revenue gap. So, and then the obvious stimulus funding from the state and federal government. That's happening right now. I've been following it on and off throughout the day, and I don't believe that they have even approached the CARES Act disbursement yet. So they have until, I believe, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning to get that taken care of. So we'll see. I'll be following it closely. So staff is working closely with the personnel and budget and city council to make financially responsible decisions. So we're meeting every week. We're talking about this, our current situation, 2020 situation with the community center and outdoor pool. And then we're also working on the 2021 budget. And there's some pretty big questions that are being asked of the personnel and budget committee. What are we going to do next year? We're projecting some revenue declines for next year. So that's one piece. Looking at what that would mean for the potential tax contribution, which would mean if we continue the service level at where it's at right now, that would mean more taxes. I don't think anybody wants that, and we're going to try to figure out a way to balance everything out. So it's very important that you let your city council members know what you feel as far as the community center goes. Our comprehensive plan, we have a comprehensive plan that was adopted, and in there, the community center is listed as an asset. It is really it is held in a high light. Because our community is small. There aren't communities of 4,000 people that have a community center. So it's something to hang our hat on. And, there's no doubt in my mind that we'll be able to get there and find a balance. It's an important amenity that we have in the community, and we'll get there. And, our city council will, make the right decision. They'll base it on what they're hearing from the community, and we'll move on. But so again, I'm separating the two items, really the COVID related item in the future budget, but this information that you're receiving today might be new to you. It's out there. It's we hold public hearings on the budget every year. All of our budget meetings are open to the public. Last year we had I think 18 meetings for the budget. So this year we're probably going to be 20 to 24. So if you want to truly be engaged, there is an opportunity. And you can always reach out directly to me, and I'm more than happy to walk through some of these major questions that we're working on in the personnel and budget committee level. So current conditions, what are we doing? We're monitoring the situation 24/7. I mean, there's this stuff changes daily. The governor changes up what we can do. Gives us a pretty short time frame to roll things out. It appears, but we're monitoring the situation. We're updating the personnel and budget committee with new information weekly. There will be an update at the city council meeting on June 22nd. So we will talk about it. We will confirm the direction that was given to me on May 26th, as far as keeping the facility closed, furloughing those 2.6 FTEs. I'm hoping that at that time I'll be able to supply some good news and say, hey, we received some stimulus dollars. The recommendation is let's open the pool up, let's open up the fitness center and move forward. So, and in that case, if that would happen, we could have the outdoor pool open as soon as July 1st. The fitness facility would be able to be open in a couple days, so probably June 24th, something like that. So know that we want to open this up. We just want to make a financially responsible decision when we do it. So The situation is very fluid and changes almost daily. You know, it's pretty amazing how fast things move and how things change. So know that we're working on it and we're trying to make the best decisions here for the community. So a little bit of legislative update. I've touched on touched on it a little bit. The CARES Act municipal disbursement failed to be passed during the regular session. Excuse me. And so what that means is that during the special session, they're going to look at it. And what that CARES Act money is, I know that that was a big bill that was passed in the United States House and Senate and signed by the president that dispersed a lot of money. There was a lot of money out there for small businesses to use to get through some of the things that we have going on with COVID-19. There really wasn't a large component that's available to municipalities. What they did is they gave the states a certain portion of the CARES Act money and then let the states disperse that. And what we ended up having is our state, Minnesota, did not disperse that money during their regular session. So we received word yesterday from Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities that a deal had been made between the House and the Senate and the governor to disperse that funding at $75.34 per capita. Now we'll see if that actually happens or if there's still ongoing disbursements, but at that per capita, we would receive, or that price per capita, we'd receive just over $300,000. So if that would happen and those are eligible expenses that we can get money for, the recommendation would be to open up the facilities following the guidelines. So that special legislative session goes through 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we'll know more then. We hope that these funds are available so then we can offset those impacts of COVID-19. So on the United States front, on May 15th, the House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act, which is a $3 trillion act, but it would dedicate $1 trillion directly to local governments to offset the financial impact of COVID-19. So that hasn't been looked at by the Senate yet, but I think the anticipation is that that'll happen sometime in July. So I think be ready for multiple stimulus packages, depending on what happens with COVID-19 and the impact to the economy later on in the year. You may see some stimulus packages and some stimulus things that are passed both locally and federally that we can potentially tap into, and we have a very good understanding, and we're watching it very closely as far as what things we can apply for and what's available to municipalities. So we want to, if there are fundings and grants available, we want to be able to access those dollars to better help the community. Path forward. So what can you do? So the 2020 situation, so the COVID-19 situation with the community center, the decision about the facilities and the furloughing of employees, that'll be reviewed on the June 22nd meeting. Talk to your council members, participate in the public comment during the meeting, ask questions to me, anybody that can help you out. Just generally, engage with us to let us know what you're thinking, because there are ways that we can open this up immediately if we want to. Let's say the stimulus money doesn't come through. We can maneuver funds around from future allocations and use that for the community center. What that means is that we'll be contributing more tax dollars to the facility than what we budgeted, and then we'll have to figure that out and recoup those dollars that were transferred back and forth in future budgets. So there's the COVID-19 situation. I'm optimistic, I'll be honest, that there will be stimulus dollars, and on the 22nd we can get direction from our city council to open those facilities up, and we'll open them up in a financially responsible way. 2021 budget. So there might have been some information here that was given that maybe you didn't understand prior to this, or know about, or didn't understand the revenue sources for the community center. If there's things that you have questions about, or you have an opinion about, talk to the personnel and budget committee members, the city council members, myself. Talk to us about the community center and how you feel about the current business model, because right now we're working on redefining what that business model looks like, because we're going to have to. I think the continued increase in property taxes that are related to the community center, it has to be capped at something. So some of the key questions I'm asking city council or the personnel and budget committee for direction on is, what's the appropriate amount of money that we contribute annually. If I can get that information, then I can work with my staff and we can develop membership rates that allow us to continue things and come up with various scenarios that help us meet those goals set by that committee. So it's important to talk to them. We want to do what's best for the community, and we want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. So I think this is a step in the right direction to really get people engaged and talk about it. But no, at the end of the day, we're doing this. This is a community. I mean, the community really drives these things. So if there's a strong inclination one way or another to go, to increase taxes, keep it the same, decrease taxes, let your representatives know. They're the ones doing the work for the people. So we are working through that budget process. I invite anybody to follow along or come and engage. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to open up to physical presence public meetings here soon, where we can invite the public back in. We're watching that maximum group size for the area that we have. Our space here at City Hall is small and limited, so we're watching that. I think everybody wants to meet in person if we can. So and I would just say ask questions. I'm getting a lot of really good questions, and I really enjoy the engagement with the people. Because it to me, from what I'm gathering, is that they're just people just don't understand or haven't had the chance to understand what's actually going on at the community center and outdoor pool. So I'm going to go through a few questions that I've gotten so far. Maybe it's probably questions that everybody has. So I'm just going to kind of go through those, and then I'm going to open it up. And if there's questions here, definitely ask them. You'll have the opportunity to ask them. I ask you are just very cordial and respectful. I'll be cordial, respectful. When we're talking, and then really kind of separate it between the two items. If it's COVID-19 related to why aren't we opening it up right now? Ask those questions. If it's business model or revenue sources or expenditures, keep that as part of the budget process. And I would say, and my answer more than likely will be related to those are. The budget questions is engage during the budget process and let your council members know how you feel and how you feel your tax dollars should be used. So I'll just move on and kind of go through some of the questions. So what is the cost to run the outdoor pool annually? I've gotten that numerous times. So looking at the 2020 adopted budget, it's about $92,000 for 3 months. So about $30,687 per month. If we were to open up on July 1st, the cost would be just over $61,000. So that kind of puts it in perspective. Now that number that was adopted, 2019, that number was a little bit higher. 2018, it was about what we're saying this year. So we're still dialing in some of these numbers. We have a pump that goes out, something that isn't or hasn't been budgeted for, that is just normal wear and tear and maintenance. Some of those things affect the budget. So next question about the pool. What is the capacity of our pool, and what would the capacity currently be under the guidelines? So right now, the big pool, not the kiddie pool, the capacity is 268 people. Under the current guidelines, we could have 134 people in there at any time, following 6-foot social distancing guidelines. Third question, would any additional staffing be required to open the outdoor pool under the current guidelines? The answer is yes. So right now, we would incur additional personnel costs related to the additional sanitation and policing related to social distancing. This has been incorporated into that 2020 budget projection. So that 15% increase that we have in there is related to anything that we would have to do. So I'll give you an example for the pool. You go to the pool and you see your friend there and they're not part of your family group. Well, you can't get within 6 feet of that person, and we have to have a person that's designated to policing that. So making sure that people that aren't part of groups or family groups that come in, 4 to 6 people, that they're not engaging or getting too close to other people. So that's a dedicated person that would have to be there whenever the pool's open. So again, we hope that those regulations get reduced a little bit so that we don't have to do that. But right now, that would be the case, is that we would have to have that on top of a lifeguard. So that person cannot be a lifeguard. I know that question has come up as well. The next question, why did we stop charging membership fees when the facility closed on March 16th? So I touched on this a little bit before, but there was literally the phones were ringing off the hook on the 16th. I think that was a Tuesday, requesting that we refund their money. We decided internally that it wouldn't be a good idea for us to force people to pay, because we anticipated that COVID-19 would likely have a financial impact on the citizens of Le Sueur. Internally, we're not charging utility late fees anymore. We're not doing any disconnects. We're not doing anything like that. So we're kind of trying to work with the citizens in town if they are impacted. So, but there have been individuals, again, that have indicated that they were willing to pay that membership. And if they want to do it, they sure can. They can do that right now if they would like. They could come in and donate that money to the city. If you're interested in doing that, please talk to me. There are ways to probably get more of a tax deduction than just donating it directly to the city and going through a service organization. But if you're interested in that, definitely reach out to me and I can help you with that. And it would help revenue wise. I mean, any little pieces that we can add to that revenue puzzle would be great. Next question, why couldn't the city access CARES Act funding when it was available to businesses? So again, municipalities are not eligible for CARES Act or SBA grant programs. So there's a plethora of programs that were available to people or to businesses in the community. And I know a lot of them tapped into that, but municipalities are not eligible for those. Next question, can't the city just move funds from something else to fund the projected deficit in the community center fund? Yeah, we can. We definitely can. But those funds would have to be regenerated in a future year. So that might be the next year, the next 5 years, something like that. City Council understands this option, but has chosen to wait to see if outside stimulus funding is secured to limit the potential future tax burden. So again, it's important to the City Council to be financially responsible and make the right decision. We want to make the right decision. Do you need any help to reopen? So staff has prepared to reopen and we are ready. As I stated before, if we're given the word by City Council, we could have that fitness facility open within a couple days. The outdoor pool would take about 10 days to prepare. If there are volunteers, please reach out and let me know, and we can try to work with you. And again, that would help with some of the revenue puzzle that we're looking at. What about hockey in the ice arena? Will there be hockey if allowed? So that's a big question, and city staff has been working with the Bulldog Youth Hockey Association and the school district and talking to them about what the situation is here. I'm confident that if hockey is available this fall, we'll be able to figure out how to open the facility in a manner that doesn't have an adverse impact on future taxes. Again, if we get stimulus funding for some of our revenue issues related to COVID-19, that's a moot point. We don't have to really worry about it. It would be business as usual, and that's what we're hoping for. Last question that I have is, what will the experience be at the fitness center and the outdoor pool if opened right now? So again, very different than pre-pandemic conditions. There are guidance documents from the state of Minnesota. If anybody's interested in those, I can share those. I've shared those with some people that have emailed me recently. There's 6 or 8 page documents that tell you what you can and can't do in your facility. So the outdoor pool capacity would be 50%, fitness center would be 25%. We'd be required to police social distancing and enforce the rules. If we don't follow the guidelines, now this is an important piece that you might not think about, is that if we don't follow the rules, the broad liability immunity that we have as a city that's granted to us through state statute, we run a risk of that being waived and it not affecting us. So if somebody would get sick at our facility and they could trace a contraction or an outbreak to us, there's a liability there. So it's important that when we open, hopefully that we are following the guidelines, because if we don't, there's potential liability there. So on this page, I'll kind of leave this up for everybody while we answer some of the questions that people may have out there. But really, it's just contact information for all of the staff that's really involved in this, and then the city council members. So just so everybody knows, your personnel and budget committee, it consists of Mayor Gregory Haig, Council Member John Favalis, and Council Member Newell Krogman. So definitely reach out to them. They're kind of the first line that the budget gets to look at, or they get to look at the budget. So I'll leave that up right now, and I'll kind of move into the area where we can kind of answer some questions. And the way it'll work is there's a little hand. You can raise your hand on your module that you're using. And I see we have 44 people. That's great. We had, I think, 50 people register. So, but you can raise your hand, and if I see your hands raised, I will unmute you, and then you can kind of ask your question, and we can just have a conversation. So I'm kind of going down the list right now. I see Jennifer Hovick has a question. Maybe I'll, if it's all right, I will unmute her, and we'll see what she's got to say. So Jennifer, are you there?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Jennifer. This is Jasper. Do you have a specific question about community center or anything we've talked about today?
No, I don't. I'm just listening.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Let's see. Let's see. I see one more hand. Let me just I got to scroll up and down here. Okay. Let's see. So I don't believe I have anybody else that's raising their hand. Let me just double check. I only see about 6 names at a time. So oh, there we go. I got 3. All right, let's go with Kristen Wagner. I'm gonna unmute you, Kristen. So Kristen, I unmuted you. It looks like you're self-muted. If you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious if you have the information with you to share with us, whether it's from the model from 2019, which is probably all you would have to go off of. What revenue, I know you went over the cost, but what revenue does the outdoor pool generate each year?
Yeah, great question. So in 2019 we had our audit, and I'm gonna mute you, and then I'm gonna raise your hand, and then if yeah, I think we're good now. Good job. So we have our 2019 data. It's audited data. I am hearing a little bit of feedback here. So so in 2019, the cost of the outdoor pool, and we did have some maintenance issues, if you remember back to that, it ended up being $120,000 roughly. Of the revenue that was generated, we generated $9,000. So $120,000 in expenses, $9,000 in revenue. So I will note that pool revenues are heavily correlated with weather. And if you remember back to last summer, it was one of the cooler summers we've had in a long time. So generally, looking back to the 2018 and 2017, and I'm doing this from memory, we had around $12,000 in revenue per year. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have another, if you got a follow up, just raise your hand again. I think I resorted this, but if you have another follow up question, let me know. Next one we got is Monica Muckow, and I'm gonna unmute you right now, Monica.
Hey, Jasper. Yep. Thank you for this. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. We'll start with the one about the CARES Act. Are there any other areas of the city that you see a need to utilize funds from the CARES Act?
Oh, definitely, yes. So right now what we have is we have a list of expenditures for PPE, things like that. That list is not very big. We have, I believe, I'd have to defer back to memory with the public services director, but it's about $4,000 right now in things that we've had to buy. We've had to buy some laptops to allow people to work from home. Those are all reimbursable expenses. We've had to do some things to access some like Microsoft Teams software that helps us work from home a little bit better. So yes, there definitely is. Right now, it's a small portion of that money. So, but yeah, potentially what we would try to do if that money is available through the CARES Act is try to access 100% of it. So, you know, the community center, not all of the aspects of the community center issues with COVID-19 might not be reimbursable, but there's other things that we hope to be able to get that. Once we get some guidance from the state of Minnesota, if they do disperse that, we'll know better. So what I'm hoping is that we get some guidance maybe on Saturday or Sunday, Monday at the latest, and then staff can look at, well, what do we have for eligible expenses that are reimbursable, and then work with whatever contacts we have once that money is available.
Thank you.
Yep.
My other two questions are just a point of clarification. You indicated because the outdoor pool was part of the 615 fund, that it would be, that creates a problem or a difficulty to open if the entire facility isn't open at the same time. Aren't the expenses and revenues for the pool separate under the 615? Or am I misunderstanding what you were saying earlier?
Yep. So we have funds and we have an accounts, and there's two accounts under the 615 fund.
Correct.
And we have the community center fund, and we have the community center account, and we have the outdoor pool account. But at the end of the day, when the auditors are looking at the fund itself, all of those financials are combined, if that makes sense. So it's we could. The question has been, well, why don't you just break that out? We could have that outdoor pool be its own separate fund. It's a matter of how we want to have those kind of service areas partitioned. So it's all, when we're looking at the broad numbers of the community center, the budget that was adopted in 2020, that $939,000, the outdoor pool is a part of that. It's a small part. It's 100,000 or 90 some thousand this year, but it is included in that fund itself.
Okay. And my last question, because I think, like I said, my others really are more applicable to the business model, but do you post when the personnel and budget committee meetings are?
Yes. Yep. So they're noticed. It's on our website. You can go sign up for notify me on our website and click the little either SMS, the text button, or the email. And anytime we post an agenda for the personnel and budget committee meeting, you'll get an email or a text. We also post it here at City Hall.
Okay. I'll email these other questions directly to you, or is it best to go to the mayor, or who would want those?
They can go to me. You can copy the mayor, and we'll work through them.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Susan McPartland. I will unmute you, Susan. Do you have a question?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, good, thank you. You had a graph that showed the number of hours, and since the administration number is a large portion of that budget, it was based on hours, not dollars. Have you extended that to a dollar graph so you can get a real sense? Because I know you've got lifeguards as a huge number. I mean, I've gone to the pool countless times and there have been no lifeguards in the inside, and we've had to sign waivers saying that we agree that we're taking care of ourselves. And I know from the outdoor pool experiences I've had, there haven't been, I mean, there probably is that many hours, but they're not paid that well. And so I'm not sure it tells the message that you're trying to understand here by saying the largest hourly fees or the largest hourly number is lifeguards versus the blue full-time employees.
Yep. That's a great question. And it's all about, what I was intending to do, I pulled up that graph so everybody can see it, was just show how many actual hours we have in the facility. If you look at it, and I'm just kind of guesstimating right now, and if I can get that to you, I think I saw an email come through from you at about 2 o'clock today, and I'll respond back. But just shooting from the hip, I think the personnel for full-time employees is about 2/3 of the budget. So if that makes sense, I'll be able to pull that exact number. But I think we could have another graph underneath this showing what percentage in a dollar sense the full-time staff is compared to all the rest. And you're spot on that obviously the lifeguards and the part-time office staff, which is almost 10,000 of those 18,000 hours, that they're getting paid at a lower rate than our benefited full-time employees.
Right. So I didn't know if we actually go through that process of reviewing, headcount is always a concern in the business world in the city. Is that something that we look at seriously and say we've increased headcount over the years? Has that been something we need to address, even though it's a difficult subject?
It is, and you know, at the Personnel and Budget Committee level, I've said everything's on the table. I mean, we have some major challenges to work with in 2021, and we have to evaluate it. You know, obviously, if we get rid of something, we lose something, right? But you know, we have to balance really the tax contributions and the membership fees. So, you know, it's important to me. I need to get some guidance to be able to develop a budget. But it's important to, you know, if the number that is decided on doesn't allow for the personnel and the staffing, it's on the table. Everything's on the table. It has to be. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that I had sent other questions. Are you able to just respond to those in email format then?
I will, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to kind of prepare anything. I was working up to this basically to get this rolling and good, but I will respond to you definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Kristen looks like she's got another question. So Kristen Wagner, I will unmute you. Looks like I think you're good. Kristen, are you there?
I am, sorry. Okay, so I had 3 questions. I asked you one, now I still
Okay.
have 2. One
Yep.
of them kind of revisits a question that Monica had asked you in a sense. She was kind of talking along the same lines of what I wanted to ask. So basically, I just want to know what would be necessary on your end or on city council's end for them to agree to a separation with that 615 of, you know, essentially emancipating the outdoor pool fund from that in making it like completely a separate thing.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, what should I be writing? If I think that's a good idea, or if other people listening think that would be a good idea for it to be independent for those 3 months, I'm talking just the outdoor pool.
Yep.
Where do we go with those recommendations, or what do they need to see in order for them to be confident to make a decision like that, if it would be a good one or not?
Yep. I would say reach out to your Personnel and Budget Committee and let them know that you would like to see that partitioned off from the general fund or the general community center fund. So that it really it's a matter of kind of back end accounting that our finance director would have to do. In order to do it this year, we would have to do a budget amendment, something that has a formal process. If we wanted to do it for 2021, it would be pretty seamless to be able to do it at that time. So if you have a strong desire to do that, definitely reach out. I've taken notes, and we'll talk about it at the Personnel and Budget Committee when we get to that level. So it's just a matter of really bookkeeping is what it is.
Sure. Okay, and then this is just kind of my last question is just more revolved around I'm a mom and I have kids who obviously are animals right now, being locked up in not really being able to do much for the past 3 months. So I think I'm speaking for quite a few of the moms within like the area that I live, the Sibley Heights area down the road. We're all just kind of wondering, you know, is there an option on the table as far as if, let's just say, worst case scenario, the stimulus funds don't get distributed to you all in a timely manner as you're hoping, or as you're praying that it will. But let's just say that something happens to where it's delayed. Is there something else that we as a community can do to assist in the 2 months that we would want an outdoor pool? I think the reason I'm asking this is because it's been a vocalized concern on a lot of the Le Sueur Facebook pages that, you know, other communities are opening their pools, and yeah, we understand they're a bigger community. They probably have more funding, all this stuff, but we just want to know for our smaller community, a lot of us really value that amenity that our town has. And we're just kind of wondering what other options would there be? Could we raise admission? Would that help? Would it not do anything? You know, what, that type of thing. Is there, or is the only option for this outdoor pool to open this year getting stimulus money?
I would say no. So I kind of talked a little bit about, other revenue sources, and just know that I've had a service organization reaching out, some businesses in the area have reached out. So we're looking at that. And if we can say that, well, okay, we need to generate, let's say, we can use some of the numbers that we have for participation in, for daily passes for the outdoor pool, because that's likely what we would just charge is just daily pass fees. Look at what we think that those would be, and then figure out what that funding gap is, that $30,000 a month, and then we would be there. So, we're working to secure some of those outside funds if possible. I'm hoping and praying that we get outside stimulus funds and they're dispersed, like you said, quickly. If we get those funds, I don't think that we technically have to get them before city council. I will have to talk to city council about it, but if there's a clear indication that those funds will be available, I think that we could have that discussion at the next meeting and have, talk about it and see once if they feel comfortable opening it at that point in time. But if there's people out there that want to donate because they have the ability to, related to memberships that we haven't had the facility open and they're still able to pay a little bit, that would be great. I think that there's a lot of people that are thinking about this, and we're trying to access any grant dollars and communicate with people in the community, and our service organizations have been great. I mean, they've done a lot of great things in the community funding wise. Like the dog park was a great partnership between, Rotary and Lions Club and Carl and Verna Schmidt and Treasures in Town. So we do have a great group, and we're trying to find out what that balance is. I'm just really hopeful we get access to those stimulus dollars, and a lot of communities are planning on opening up on July 1st, and it would be great if we were one of them.
Yeah, I just have one really quick follow up, and then I'll just email you the rest of them.
Yeah.
You might not even be able to answer this one, but you had mentioned, I know one of your, I don't know if it was on a slide or what, but I wrote it down that basically the average cost for the outdoor pool is about 30,000 some a month. Was I correct, or did I read
Yep.
that wrong?
You're
Okay,
right.
so then my question, I guess, to you is if the average, and obviously I know it fluctuates due to weather, but if the average revenue is only $12,000 a year for the outdoor pool, and the cost is $30,000 a month, how do you guys rectify that in any other typical year?
Property taxes. So that's part of that general levy property tax contribution.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the slide, but that's what covers that revenue gap. So the gap between expenditures and revenues, the property taxes fill that in.
So if you guys moved some stuff around, like you said, would be maybe an option. If the stimulus didn't, you wouldn't have to actually rectify the full 30,000 because that's already done every year. You'd have to rectify the additional 12,000 in revenue that would be lost, or not even 4, because it'd be able to be open for 2 months. So we'd be just adding another 4,000 to try and make up for. You get what I'm trying to say? I guess I'm not really eloquating it very good, but I'm saying
I do.
what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. If you get it, then we're good. I just want people that are hearing these huge numbers of 30,000 and 90,000 to know that this is something you guys see every year, and you already have a solution for how you kind of rectify that gap. And the gap that we're looking at right now for this year, as drastic of a change as this COVID has been for everyone financially, if we're just looking at the outdoor pool, we're really only talking about around an average of $4,000, maybe at $6,000, that needs to be accounted for, or we have to figure out where we're going to pull it from. So this isn't about pulling 30 grand for this year or creating a huge deficit for next year, just for the outdoor pool. Now, I do agree with you that it would be doing so for the entire facility, but obviously, as you can tell, I'm only concerned with the outdoor pool at this
Yeah.
point.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. And there is a revenue component that, you know, we've conservatively estimated these things that we won't have any revenue. Well, if people, you know, come to the outdoor pool, we'll have some revenue. And, you know, maybe we have to say it's going to be, because I think right now it's $6.50 for a day pass. You know, maybe it's got to be a little bit more, but I think if there's a community push, and you're likely going to see some different marketing techniques for the community center for 2021, you know, kind of having it more, you know, try to rebrand it as like a co-op type facility, because really it's community owned. You know, the community owns that building, owns everything in it. So, you know, people pay taxes on it. If you pay taxes and don't use it, you're not able to really access it. But, you know, it really is a co-op. But I understand what you're saying. I'd like to put pen to paper on kind of some of those things. And, you know, I think it does get pretty close to be able to say, yeah, I mean, it's 6,000 or something like that per month, and we could probably open up the pool.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I hear what you're saying.
Thanks for doing this.
Yep. I have Monica back on. She's self-muted. Monica, if you have another question, follow up.
I just have a question. A girlfriend texted me and she would just like some clarity on what the expectations were of the city with regard to employees and what their activities or work activities were during the closure, and were they paid for that time?
Yep. So yeah, good question. And this is something that we get a lot of, and I'm sure other communities do with work at home. We have a work at home policy. The policy is people did work that could work from home did. In our facility, or in our city, everybody that could did. Some of our admin staff would come in, they'd go back and forth, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then another one would come in on Tuesday, Thursday. But everybody has the capabilities to work from home, and the expectation is that they're available 8 to 5. We had all of our phones forwarded, so everybody's office phone was going to their cell phone. The city lines were all going to cell phones for the administrative staff. So the expectation was that everybody was working, you know, the full time. There was a little period of time where the utility folks were basically the first 2 weeks of the closure. They were on call doing the basic maintenance, so they were still in. After that 2 weeks, we decided that they need to be in here to maintain those essential services. So there's probably about I'd say 8 people that were working from home that were considered admin staff like myself. But the expectation was that they were available 40 plus hours a week, and you know, we held everybody to that expectation.
Okay, she's messaging me more, sorry. She
Okay.
just said specifically the community center staff. I mean, what were they working on as far as, you know, daily tasks, things that they were developing, plans?
Yeah, I can touch base on that more specifically with the community center staff. So we did roll out some new software. So Rec Desk is what it's called. So we're getting rid of Max Galaxy, which is what our current or past software was. So they rolled out some new software that was directed by, recommended by RPAC and approved by City Council. So, and it'll help us understand even better what's going on financially at the facility. So that's a big deal to roll something like that out. Coming up with these preparedness plans for the facility, so that when we can open up, we can do it following these plans. So a lot of information that gathering from outside organizations, as far as like some of the fitness equipment and the major fitness organizations in the country, as far as, well, what are you going to do when you open up? You know, so following that. So I mean, we held them to a pretty high standard. Right now, everybody's now coming into the office. We're slowly ramping up so that by the end of June, we're going to be back, everybody in the office 5 days a week. You know, I've been in the office 5 days a week this week. I think I was in 4 days a week last week. And that's the expectation now that we're kind of ramping up. So I think I honestly feel good about how it went, because I'll be honest, nervous about everybody just all of a sudden having to work from home, because it works for some people and some people it doesn't.
Thank you.
Yep. Susan McPartland has a question. I will unmute her. Susan?
Yes, again, from a business standpoint, we often had meetings where we would take a budget and line item, just brainstorm, how in the world could we possibly cut, change, eliminate, those kinds of things, consolidate jobs where that was possible, share equipment with other groups, maybe other cities. Is that kind of a process ever used at the city, and when and where does that ever happen?
Great question. So diving into kind of the budget process, it happens every year. So internally, we prepare a budget, the staff does, for city council and the personnel and budget. We go through each line item with the personnel and budget and talk about the changes related to them. And we're always looking at ways to improve. We've a lot of people have asked, well, how have you been able to establish a capital improvement program that has over $1 million a year invested in it? And really what we've done over the last 3 years is really picked apart budgets, trimmed some fat, tried to get to be more efficient, and move some of that money into a capital improvement fund. So we've done it. I mean, we've done it quite extensively. We're to the point where some of my directors are just like, this is going to be very tough to do. And it's, that's the challenge. That's what I'm challenging them to do, is try to be more efficient. But I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been able to do a lot of things in town. They're happening now, but we've been able to do some things that we didn't really have budgets for or funding for in the past. So we've done it. You're more than welcome. I mean, these meetings are public. We can go through. We go through literally each line item. So that's why these things, the process takes so long. Really, we start now this month or this year in June. Usually it's mid-July after 4th of July. But we literally go through everything, and we try to figure that out. Regarding the community center, because there has been staff increase there, that was a conscious choice by city council to say, hey, we want to make rec programming better. We want to do some things differently and try to improve on them. So that was the background on that, if that's kind of the question, because we have had some increases. Back in 2018, there was 1.5 full-time employees. We had more staff time or part-time timers, so we've kind of cut the part-time and shifted some of that to the full-time employees. But that was a conscious decision by city council to try to make things better. We have I think a beautiful rec programming catalog that didn't go out this summer because of COVID, but I think we've consciously tried to improve that. But every year we go through and we look at every line item in the budget and just make sure that it's as efficient as possible.
Okay. A personal thing that I was thinking of was even the airport expansion. The amount of positive repercussions from that initiative versus something that's a broader based thing like the community center. It didn't kind of seem to balance out to me. It seemed like a small amount of people will get some sort of benefit from that versus the community center, which, as we all had mentioned, the city and trying to sell itself to get people to move here. A community center is hugely important versus a small airport. So that's why I said the line item, there's always ways you can cut things. So I saw that now you have a 3-person staff, Greg Haig, Fablice, and somebody else. I didn't know if there were more people that were brainstorming those kind of line items to help them think of ways to cut expenses. Because I know even our county is doing that. They're merging jobs together just to kind of help save on staff. So I was hoping that the city has some way of doing that same kind of thing.
We do, and I'll just 1 second add about the airport. That's a little different because we get money every year from the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA. So if we do a project out at the airport, it's generally 90% funded by somebody other than the city. So you'll see a big taxiway extension project for like $750,000, but really our impact is about 75,000. But I agree. I mean, we're looking at that every year, and we try to balance that out. But it's one of those things where they give us the money, and if we don't use it, we end up losing it, or it's capped at a certain amount. So we look at it all. We look at it all every year. But
I just don't want people to forget when they say we get this free money, that if you pay taxes, which I believe all of us do, or most of us do, it's not really free money. It's a part of our tax system. So we need to say yes with our votes.
Yep. And with the FAA money, it's if we don't use it, somebody else gets to use it. So, but I understand it's all tax money. It's all coming from citizens and people and businesses.
Thank you.
All right, I got Monica is raising her hand, so I will. Whoops, sorry, Monica, I hit your hand before I hit your mute button. Oh, you're already unmuted. All right. You have a follow-up question, Monica?
I just heard the previous gal ask a question regarding staffing, and I was not going to ask it, but you answered part of her question. So when you guys made the change in 2018 to the restructure at the community center specifically, did you have built-in measurable goals for that new position? And if so, what were they? How do you sit back at a time like this right now? I feel like the city is given an opportunity to really sit back and evaluate the productivity of, the new business model and that position. I mean, from an outward standpoint, perhaps it's not necessarily something I watch super closely, but in speaking with my peers and others in the community, it appears to us that the programming hasn't changed an overly amount, which I think that was the hope when bringing on the additional third person in the office. And then kind of another question under that is like, when they were making that change, there was, of course, scuttle on the Facebook about, this improving the 60-40 split tax levy for user fees and, trying to reduce the tax levy and increase user fees as part of that increase in revenues from programming. In fact, I even heard the crazy comment from a city staff person that they were going to try and eliminate tax contribution, and I just kind of had to laugh internally about that. But my question is two parts. Like, what are those measurable goals if they exist? And if not, can we look to establish those measurable goals going forward? And then secondly, how will, if this person or this position or the new business structure works out, how will this affect the 60-40 split for the tax levy and user contributions?
Yeah, a lot of stuff wrapped up in there, but I agree. So that we do have, we have performance reviews, right? But when the position was established, there wasn't something set like we need to get more membership or more people participating in rec programming, things like that. We didn't have anything like that, but we do set goals, performance review goals that are similar to kind of that. But we do have a job description that I'd be willing to share with anybody. All of those are available if anyone's interested, but to kind of make sure that everybody understands, the various roles, because there are 3 people there and the duties are split up, and it's different than it was in 2018. But we hope that things are getting better. It's been tough. We've seen some good things happen. I think our program catalog is just as good as anybody else's. But I think as far as metrics go, like, getting more people to be involved or, generate more revenue, there have been discussions from the I guess, program coordinator that with the Recreation and Park Advisory Committee saying, well, here are all the programs, here are the profit margins, here's what I need to charge to break even. And, the number is much higher than what we're charging right now. So, those things are out there. We understand them, but there haven't been any, like, I'll say, goals set as far as those things. But I'd be interested to see who, somebody saying that we're going to try to not have, tax contributions go towards the community center. That's, I don't know. I'd have to look at, I don't know who said that, but that's obviously not, we're not anywhere close to that. So,
Yeah.
but we don't, long story short, we don't have like these metrics that say, yep, you need to do this, this, and this, to be employed here. There's performance review goals that are in there. But really we are trying to do a variety of things, but at the end of the day, we've tried a few things, and honestly, it hasn't been well received, and we use that as feedback. But if there's something, I mean, we're all for generating ideas, but if there's something that you want to see, like we'll try anything. We'll try anything to see if the community wants to support it.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that there be, a matrix or a punch list of details that Jenny, Alyssa, or Allison need to meet in order to stay employed with the city. I'm just looking at it from a budgetary and business standpoint. Like, it would be wise for those in the city council and yourself as the overall administration to just sit back and say, these are the goals we need to have for those working in these positions. And if it's not working out, then look to reestablish how that's organized. And I get it. I'm not advocating for anyone to lose their job, but in the same sense, some of these difficult decisions really have to be made, or these difficult, uncomfortable discussions have to take place, and decide if the new approach is truly working with the funding, because I've seen an uptick, if I'm not mistaken, in that 60%, well, in the tax levy for several years. If you look back in the audits and in the budgets for, several years, 4 or 5 years, I've looked at it, and every year it seems like there's a small uptick in the tax contribution. And in 2018, when it was restructured, there was a significant increase. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm advocating or advising folks to look at eliminating positions. I'm just saying really evaluate the effectiveness and the of the current model. That's all I'm asking.
Yep, I think that's a fair ask, and I know that we have council members, personnel and budget committee members here listening, and it's something that if we, right now we're projecting that we're going to have to do something different in 2021 than we're doing right now. So we'll definitely, like I said before, everything's on the table, and we're trying to be as efficient as possible and be really conscious of how we're spending that taxpayer dollar.
Thank you.
Yep. I got Shannon Frost next. Shannon, can you think you're self-muted right now if you got a question? There you go.
Hi, Jasper. I just wanted to, since the airport got brought up, everyone wants to bring up the airport when they're talking about tax dollars and stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, there's revenue from gas sales, so it's not like it's a money pit.
Correct. Yep. So really, the airport runs almost at a balanced budget. It's pretty close. Some years it's maybe we have $5,000 in deficit. Maybe some years we have $2,000 in profit at the end of the year. But generally, it's pretty much a balanced budget. We've done some things in the last 3 years to try to get that to be more consistent. But we do have some revenues that are generated through there for rentals, hangar rentals, things like that help with that revenue stream. So you're exactly right.
Thanks. I'm passionate about the airport, and every time money gets brought up, everyone brings up the airport as kind of being a waste of tax dollars. But I know that there's especially gas sales and business that it brings into town too.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, reach out to me. There's a really interesting economic impact analysis that I think MnDOT did, Minnesota Department of Transportation did about airports, and ours blew my mind as far as what the economic impact is that they figured. So if anyone's interested in that, reach out.
Thanks.
Yep. We have Kirsten Wagner again. Let me oh, there you go. Sorry about that. I muted you, but yep. Yeah, we can hear you, I think.
Okay, I just wanted to, I know you mentioned that some council members may or may not be listening. So in kind of teaming up with a portion of what Monica also had said, which was also on my, kind of on my list in so many words, I know that a lot of the community, I follow the Sueur residents page a lot, and it's especially in this COVID, it's been brought up multiple times in different areas of concern in regards to city involvement or anything like that. And I know that these salaries and particularly this additional position that was added has been a point of contention for a lot of people. So I wanted to maybe just appeal to whoever is in charge of the functioning and the administration of those employees and say, you know, I know that when that position was created, I am sure that when that person was hired between then and now, they have had multiple plans of things that they were going to do or things they wanted to add, or you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't just sit there and do nothing. Like this new hire wasn't done in a vacuum. So I would really encourage that. I don't know if the council members would have any say in this or not, but I would love to see something of, hey, guess what? We know it's not happening, but this is what our new position had planned. These are the improvements that this position was, or the contribution that this position was bringing. Kind of essentially what Monica's saying. It's really just a plea from us to say, hey, we don't know because you can't do anything. You can't make the improvements. We know what you guys saw for your vision, but now we can't see it because everything's canceled because of this virus. But that doesn't mean that they can't release some sort of, this was what we were working on. I know gymnastics was introduced before this COVID. I'm sure they probably had something to do with that. I don't know when the last time a gymnastics class was offered, that type of thing. And I was a gymnast for 12 years. I know it costs a lot of money to get that type of equipment. So I'm sure that, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to like kind of find this common ground of frustration and understanding. And I think there's just a tiny gap between people see what they see and what's behind the scenes. And I would just love to see what was behind the scenes come forward so that we can kind of see it and better just kind of understand it. Because like you said, it's a recently new position within the last couple of years. They really haven't had any time to get their feet off the ground. And so I would love to see what they were doing or what they were working on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely. And I'll just state in the short term, this individual provides a monthly update to the Recreation and Park Advisory Committee. So that can be found on our website as far as in that agenda. But I think it's a good question, to have. And I know that at that RPAC level, they talk about this. They get into real good detail about these things. So we have a board, we have a committee that looks at that and works with that individual like directly. So so that's short term. In the upcoming future, I think it'd be great to have that individual provide an update to City Council, to be able to have some questions answered. And if you got specific questions, let me know and we can have them addressed. But they do provide a monthly report to the Recreation and Park Advisory Committee on what's going on as far as rec programming goes. So that'd be a good place to start. But I think it's good because not everybody reads those things. To do that.
And so it is available to the public?
It is, yep. So if you go to our website and look at our agendas and meetings section, and you go to the Recreation and Park Advisory Committee, all the agendas are in there. And I think recently, if I have to look, I know that on the go-to webinar page, the city's go-to webinar page, all of those meetings, since we've been meeting remotely, are recorded too. So if you have interest in looking at those, they're definitely up there as well.
They're all archived.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, the go-to meeting webinar thing is a little bit difficult to navigate to sometimes. We're working on trying to get a direct link to that, but if you have trouble, just reach out, let me know, and I can point you in the direction for those.
Great, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? It looks like nobody's raising their hand right now. Let's kind of say going once, going twice. You know, if there are any other questions, and I'll go back to the contact list that I put up here, and you know, you can look at this and reach out to anybody, you know, that's on here. Obviously, your mayor and your city council represent you as the public. We don't have wards anymore. That maybe has you know, maybe is unknown to some, but we used to have 2 wards. Now everybody, the 6 council members, they're all at large. So every council member represents every citizen in town. So feel free to reach out to them and let them know, because this is a big community decision. And it looks like Shannon's got a question. So Shannon, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hey, Jesper, in the comments on the resident site, you know, a lot of people were questioning stuff, and I know a lot of people say contact you, and you're putting up the email addresses, and I had put that link on the big 200, you know, comment post. Can you
Yeah.
explain to everybody? I think, you know, there's a lot of people that don't know your role and what, you know, as far as decision making, you know, what that is, and what, you know, as far as the council members, you know, what they do, the mayor does, you know, so that when you say contact them, they know, you know, how their voices are heard and stuff like that a little better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I can talk just about the general layout of our government system that we have in Le Sueur. So, you know, the mayor, all of the council members are elected by the public. The administrator oversees all operations and is responsible for the budget and basically all aspects of the city. So, but what I do is I take my guidance from the city council. So I work at their pleasure. So they tell me to do something, I do it. You know, so if they tell me to only contribute or have a budget that only contributes, you know, $400,000 of taxpayer money to the community center, I'm going to do it. You know, it's going to be a challenge and we'll work through it. But, you know, really I take my direction from those 7 individuals, and they work as a cohort and a group together. And that's how I get my marching orders. And every year we go through a planning process. It's a retreat planning process, and we set out what our goals are for the year. So, you know, what do we want to accomplish this year? And, you know, I get graded on those things, you know. So every year I'm evaluated, and, you know, I'm pushing to get these goals done that the city council wants. So, you know, really when I say reach out to the city council and let them know your thoughts, feelings about the community center, or anything in that fact that's city related, you know, they're gonna get that information, they're gonna digest it, and they might hear from 30 people, and, you know, it might change the way they think about something. So really that's how this government structure works is, you know, I'm responsible for basically all aspects of the city, but I get the general guidance on how to run the city from the city council and those adopted policies.
So when, like in this case, you know, this got brought up because the community center closing, if people wanted, you know, money pulled from another way, it's not saying it's going to happen, but they would be best to express it to the city council, you know, that, hey, this is what the people of the city really, really want.
I'd agree with that statement, definitely. So, you know, right now I'm just trying to provide, I'm providing information to the council that helps them make decisions, and that's kind of my role right now. And if they want to come to me and say, you know, we got to do something here, we want to open this up because, you know, I'm hearing a lot from people in the community, you know, I'll find a way to do it. But, you know, knowing that, you know, there might be some implications in the future. You know, and we hopefully that's not the case.
All right. Thanks for telling that for people that might not know.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah, so reach out to me. You know, I've engaged with numerous people that I haven't met ever, you know, yet. So since I've been here at the city, so it's great. I genuinely like engaging with people and hearing what they have to say, because, you know, really the way local government works is that it's run by the people. And, you know, if there's enough people that want something done, we can do it. So it's very gratifying when we get to accomplish things. But, you know, some of these tasks and things that are happening because of COVID and, you know, budgetary constraints are challenging, and it's going to be a challenge, and we're going to have to make some decisions that, you know, everybody might not like. So, you know, but that's part of local government. So I'll leave it at that. And if again, any questions, reach out to me directly. You have contact info. This webinar, we're gonna end up putting up on Facebook, as well as try to get it up on live stream. We've had some issues with uploading these videos to live stream in their website for some reason. We're working on that, but it'll be on Facebook, and you'll be able to look at it on there, and it'll be available through our website as well. So thank everybody for participating. It was a great turnout. I think we, like I said, 50 registered, and I think there were like 45 people that ended up showing up. So it's good, and let's continue the conversation, and you know, hopefully we can you know, have some good news on the 22nd, and we can move on, and people have some things for their kids to do this summer. So with that, I'll sign off. Thanks again, and if you have questions, please reach out, and look forward to working with everybody. Thank you.